So here we're going to remind ourselves or learn how to use our graphing calculator to solve a system of linear equations, and obviously doing it graphically. This is our system we need to solve. So the first step that we would do is we need to put it into our calculator. So the place that we put our equations is in the y equals button. Now when we're in here, the first thing we need to do is clear out anything that's already typed there. So I don't have anything. If there was something in a few of these lines, just go up there and clear them out and hit enter. We also want to make sure that none of our scatter plots are on. So right now I can tell that my first plot is on because it's dark and highlighted. So to turn it off, I just scroll up and hit enter and turn it off. So once this is all clear, we're going to type our first one in. So 2x minus 5. You'll notice the x button is right next to the green alpha. The next equation, negative 3x minus 1. Notice how I don't need to put the y equals because that's already there for me in my calculator. Y equals 2x minus 5 and y equals negative 3x plus 1. Now, what we'd recommend doing to start with is setting your window. The standard window, the x value on the minimum would be negative 10. The biggest x would be 10. And then the scale or each tick mark should be counting by 1. We can set the y minimum to negative 10 and the y maximum to positive 10 and the scale to be 1. That's just our general negative 10 to 10 on each axis type of graph. The shortcut for that is hitting zoom 6 for the standard viewing window. If you hit zoom 6, it'll automatically bring you to this window. If you were setting the window by yourself and you were here, you would simply hit the graph menu to bring up that picture. So we know graphically the solution is the point of intersection. So first of all, we verify to make sure that they do touch. If we saw an example where they didn't touch, you'd have to change your window to find it. Now the way that we find the point of intersection is we hit the blue second button and then the trace button, which if I hit blue, it really means calc or calculate. Now in this menu, we're going to use option 5 for the intersect or the intersection. So you can either scroll down and hit enter on number 5, or you can simply hit the number 5. And once we get here, it's going to ask us 3 questions. It wants to know what we want to find the intersection of, so it's going to ask us to pick the 2 lines. So you'll notice my cursor right now is on the blue line. If I were to hit up or down, my cursor moves to the other line. So right now I only have 2 lines on my graph anyway, but I still need to tell my calculator these are the 2 lines that I want to have intersect. So one of the lines I want to use is this red one, so my cursor is on it, so I hit enter to that. The second equation I want to use, my cursor is on it already. If it wasn't, I would just hit up and down. So the other one I want is the blue line. So you'll see that I have a cursor on the red line and a cursor on the blue line. So I hit enter to that. So these are the 2 things I'm finding the intersection of. And then our calculator wants us to narrow it down. Where do we think it is? And for our guess, we hit the left or the right arrow. And we move our cursor to as close of the point of intersection as we can get. So I think it's going to touch right there. And then I finally hit enter. And once we hit enter, it'll label the point of intersection for us. So that means this over here, I know the solution for x was 1.2 and the y value was negative 2.6. For another example that's important, if I was going to graph this on my graphing calculator, what's really important to remember when we're working with lines is our calculator can only take the y equals form of a line. When I go here, I cannot enter any of these other things. So we will need to convert. So to convert our point slope form, the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to distribute. Sorry, let me get a different color here. So we're going to distribute the slope. So I have y minus 1 equals 2x minus 2. So if we add 1 to both sides, you can see that we get y equals 2x minus 1. And then with our standard form, we'd have to get y alone. So the first thing I would do to both sides is subtract 3 x's. A little hard to write with my mouse, so bear with me. So I have 2y equals negative 3x, and then there already was a positive 12. And the biggest thing here, the biggest step, when I'm trying to get y alone, I need to divide everything by 2, not just one part of it. So we get y alone. Y is equal to negative 3 halves x plus 6. So once I have it in y equals form, we know how to use our calculator to get that. So again, I went into my y equals menu. I don't want any of these lines here, so I'm going to clear it out and hit enter, clear it out and hit enter. I'm going to enter my first equation as 2x minus 1. Put that in the wrong line, doesn't matter. This other one I'm going to enter in my other equation. So an easy way to get a fraction on the newer calculators is hit the alpha button and then y equals, brings up our little fraction menu.
So -3 is on top, and I hit the down arrow to get to the bottom, and I scroll over to be done. So -3/2 x plus 6. As a reminder, if your calculator doesn't do that, if I hit alpha and y equals, and it doesn't bring up that menu, to create a fraction, you would just use parentheses. So parentheses -3 divided by 2, and then close the parentheses, and then x plus 6. So those would be the same thing. I'm going to clear it out. So once I have my equations, I like to hit zoom and then 6 for the standard viewing window. It's usually a great place to start. It's not always the window we need. So we can see our first line coming in. We can see our second line coming in. Maybe I'll change the colors of those so they match. This was our blue line. Or sorry, this was our red line, and then this one here is actually blue and not green. So we can see that they do touch. So to find their point of intersection, I hit second, the trace button. I want to use the intersect feature, so I hit 5. I need to select my first curve. This is one of the lines that I want to find the intersection with, so my cursor's on it, so I hit enter. This is the other line that I want. My cursor's already on it. Remember, if it wasn't, I would just choose it by hitting the up and down arrow. And it wants me to guess where I think they touch. So I scroll as close as I can to that point, and I hit enter. Once I hit enter, it'll tell me what the point of intersection is, and I'll verify that I have the point of intersection because it says intersection. So the solution here was 2, 3.